Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tesla stock today is up around 5%, sitting at $356 per share. If we get that close above 350, as I've talked about before, things could get pretty exciting in the days to come. And we'll talk about that in just a little while. I do want to share with you all of your Tesla stock breaking news and all of the broader market news, because the broader markets today also are doing well. The S&P is up 1.6%, and there's a couple things to point out, okay? And we need to see additional progress on trade talks to continue to move higher at this point, especially with Europe. Now that there's a 50% tariff threat that did get pushed back, and Donald Trump has good news on that front. So let's go ahead and start off with that. Why markets are moving higher today. Donald Trump last week recommended a straight 50% tariff on the EU after complaining that trade negotiations stalled. Okay. And then over this weekend, Donald Trump said that the 50% tariff on the EU will go into effect in July if there's not progress or presumably a deal done by then. Okay. And that's what kind of had futures doing well. But now Trump is hailing a positive step in US EU trade negotiations as markets hope for a deal. Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "I have just been informed that the EU has called to quickly establish meeting dates." He also said, quote, "This is a positive event, and I hope they will finally, like my same demand to China, open the European nations for trade with the United States of America." White House senior advisor Hassett today says we will see a few more deals even this week. He says that lower tariffs would be for countries with good offers. And he says that tariffs could go to 10% or less for some countries. He says that India is among the deals close to the finish line. Also had some really good economic data today. Durable goods orders were forecasted at negative 7.8%. We came in at negative 6.3%. And some people are going to say, that's a bad number. That's like really, really negative. And sure, it is really negative. But last month was positive 6.7% or 7.6%. So you're negative 6.3%. Just simple math here means over the last 2 months, you were actually positive 1.3%. Okay? On durable goods orders. That's actually pretty good in an environment where Q1 GDP was negative. Okay? So it's context that matters. And this is a good number today, even though it's negative 6.3%. You also had the S&P Case-Shiller home price year over year that came in at 4.1%, below estimates of 4.5%. House price index month over month came in negative 0.1%. Expectation was positive 0.1%. CB consumer confidence came in much better than expected. We were expecting 87. It came in at 98.0, with inflation expectations that actually fell from 7% down to 6.5%. So pretty much across the board today, there was just a lot of good news. Good economic data and good comments from Trump and Hassett kind of explain why markets did well today. China's Premier Yi Li says economic globalization is facing unprecedented impact. He says we are facing a rise of protectionism and unilateralism. We must expand, opening up, and remove barriers, which sounds really good for a trade deal. He also says since the beginning of this year, China's economy has continued to recover and improve. Ed Barkin says the published data shows an economy that is on the same trajectory as the last year or two. He says that people are being patient on investment decisions. And he says people are waiting out policy uncertainty. But he says there is no evidence that the drop in sentiment is affecting spending. And here you can see Conference Board 12-month inflation expectations eased today to 6.5% after spiking at 7% in April. Fed Barkin says businesses are still largely pulling to the sidelines. Dallas Fed manufacturing came in at negative 15.3. The forecast was negative 23.1, and the previous month was negative 35.8. So again, that's a pretty strong number, even though it's still really negative. The Canadian government today says Canada to have the largest economy transformation since World War II. Now, also keep in mind the talk of Wall Street today is Nvidia earnings coming out tomorrow. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but the bottom line is people are not very optimistic about Nvidia's earnings. I mean, people don't think they're going to be good. There's a pretty low bar, I feel like. And if there is maybe a time Nvidia could impress a little bit, it is when people think Nvidia is going to do bad. And anytime anyone's ever thought Nvidia will do bad in the last 3 years has always been disappointed, right? Because they always do better than feared. And that's probably the same kind of situation this time around. And I do think Nvidia earnings will be a positive catalyst for market. We also have Salesforce and C3 AI, as well as Elf, Viva, Centennial One, Pure Storage, and Synopsys tomorrow and after hours. Tomorrow, pre-market, Dick's Sporting Goods, Abercrombie & Fitch, Macy's, BMO. And then Thursday is a pretty big day as well. Foot Locker, Best Buy, Kohl's, Hormel Foods, Futu, Burlington, and Build-A-Bear Workshop in pre-market. And then in after hours, Marvell, Costco, Dell, Elastic, Zscaler, Ulta Beauty, Gap, American Eagle Outfitters, Ambarella, and NetApp. And then Friday morning, you have Canopy Growth, Shoe Carnival, and some others. As far as tomorrow's economic data calendar, we really don't have much. Speech from Fed Kashgari overnight, Dallas Fed Services, Richmond Fed Manufacturing, the Red Book, and FOMC minutes. But it's going to be a relatively slow day compared to today's rounds of economic data. Things pick up later in the week, but tomorrow's really all about Nvidia. People are going to be getting ready for Nvidia. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of fear or hesitancy tomorrow heading into that report. All I've heard today from hedge funds and institutions or firms, money managers around Nvidia earnings is prepare for a messy quarter, prepare for a bad quarter, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't know if I buy that. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it's feared. Now, Tesla stock today, as I said, is up close to 5%, about 4.7% at the time of recording this video at $355 per share. I think $350 again is a very critical level. And we'll see if Nvidia earnings can be another positive catalyst to move markets higher. If that's the case, I would expect Tesla pretty shortly here could be in the 370s. And then you're really going to blast higher from there. There's quite a bit of a gap here from, where I have my line set on the chart. I do think above 350, you're getting into short squeeze territory. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next video. But being above 350, as long as we can close above 350, is a great sign. Now, option activity today for Tesla actually on the weaker side. You have 162 different trades from hedge funds and institutions, totaling $139 million with a positive order value of 37%. Again, this is only hedge funds and institutions. When you look at total option activity expiring this Friday, volume today is 65.5% calls, 34.5% puts. So there's actually almost a 2-to-1 difference, 2 times as many calls versus puts being bought today. That's actually a good sign. Now, as far as the short interest is concerned, at about 2.9%, you have $27.55 billion sold short in Tesla, totaling 81.2 million shares and 228,000 shares that look like have been sold short today on net. You have borrowed shares of 556,000 and return shares of 328,000. Although we're going to see a lot more activity here heading into the end of the day, I do think shorts are going to end up covering quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised for a pretty aggressive end of the day rally today for Tesla stock. But again, I just want to highlight, you have still a massive short position on Tesla, and short sellers have lost over $10 billion. They've lost close to $12 billion, $13 billion since the April lows. And I think, again, once you get above 350, that move to 400 becomes pretty obvious. And then maybe even a test to new all-time highs in a squeeze event. And then short sellers just get blown up. Now, a new study from JD Power shows steady consumer interest in EVs. 24% of in-market vehicle shoppers are, quote, very likely to consider an EV, and 35% are somewhat likely to go electric. These numbers are unchanged from the same survey last year. Nissan is considering selling its global headquarters in Japan to ensure the company survives. It's worth about $700 million. And there is more pricing pressure in China. BYD stock fell 8.2% today after the company announced vehicle price cuts of up to 34% on some models on May 23rd. The price of the Seagull hatchback was reduced by 20%, now only costs $7,780 while the Seal dual motor hybrid sedan was cut by 34% to 102,000 won, which like $15,000. That's crazy. And in that context, it's even crazier that Tesla can still put up some really good numbers. I mean, last week you had 11,000 vehicle insurance registrations out of China. The year before you were at 13,200. So you are down a little bit, but again, you're facing $15,000 vehicles as competition. Like, this is not bad, all things considered, and kind of where we are with the Tesla story. And I do believe, especially over the next couple of months, it's going to be a lot less about the vehicle side and a lot more about the AI and autonomy side for Tesla. Germany on Monday launched a pilot program offering fully autonomous public transport services in 2 small towns using technology from Intel-owned Mobileye and vehicles provided by Chinese EV maker NIO. And Tesla Cybertrucks joined the Jalisco's police fleet before 2026 FIFA World Cup. The Mexican state aims to enhance security and project a modern image with the Tesla Cybertruck. And according to a new study, the 2 main reasons people cite why they aren't buying EVs is charging infrastructure and upfront cost. 81% say they'd be interested in switching to an EV if it was as convenient as a gas station, and Sawyer Merritt here says better EV education is needed. So with that said, let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comments section. This to me though, again, you had the, see if I can just draw here. Can I just draw here? Why won't it let me draw? This is retarded. But yeah, that's stupid. But you had the up move, okay? You had the consolidation or coiling, and now you have the break, okay? The break above 350 was critical. And I do think we go a lot higher from here. I think this starts a chase. Could start a bit of a short squeeze, especially as we get further away from 350, 400 plus starts to become more likely. And I think Wall Street is really underpositioned in Tesla. And again, they're really short in Tesla as well. So not a great combo for anyone betting against Tesla here. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.